to call the meeting to order, waiting to hear from Mayor Malanka. Now, the thing is that this is Thursday night and it's Music in the Square night in Spencerville. So I'm quite sure these probably got lost in the heavy traffic. Or either that or he's having trouble getting into the parking structure. But I'm sure we'll hear from him soon. But it's my pleasure to welcome everyone here this evening. And it is a good turnout from most of our I see Prescott's, all the councilors are here. All the councilors are here from the Edwardsburg Cardinal. And I think we got what? Just Deputy Mayor Shaver from Augusta. So as we hear a little bit more from Mayor Malanka, I'll let you know what time he's going to come, but we are going to go ahead now. So that's the call to order, and the next item on the agenda is approval of the agenda. And before I start, I should just ask, does everyone have copies of the agenda in front of them, or does anyone need copies of the agenda? We do have extra copies available if anybody needs copies. Okay. So next item on the agenda is approval of the agenda, and we do have a recommendation that the agenda for this special tri-council meeting of the Township of Augusta, Township of Edwardsburg Cardinal, and Town of Prescott be approved as presented. Can I have a mover for that motion, please? I have Councillor Dillabaugh moving, and is there a seconder, please? I have Councillor Ostrander seconding. Any additions to the agenda? Hearing none, about to call a question on the motion. Those in favor? Motion is carried. So this is all internal business for this meeting. So the next item, of course, is the disclosure of pecuniary interest. Does anyone have a pecuniary interest with any item on the agenda? And if so, what is the general nature of that interest? Anyone? So the chair notes no disclosures of pecuniary interest, and the minutes will so reflect. Item number 5 on the agenda is opening statements from the 3 mayors. So first of all, I want to say on behalf of the Township of Edwardsburg Cardinal and our councilors, we're very pleased to have the opportunity to host this meeting. This is the 3rd meeting of the tri-municipal group. And I think we're slowly finding a way to find issues that we can work together on. I just want to state again for the record that while we're very interested in working more closely with our other 2 municipal partners, I sense no initiative within our council of any form of amalgamation. So I think it's important to keep that in front of the public, because I know that the public in my township is not amenable to that type of a corporate relationship. I just want to put that out there and keep putting it out there. And other than that, my opening remarks are very short. I know that we have Steve McDonald, the CAO of Augusta, sending regrets, and also Matthew Armstrong, the CAO from Prescott, extending regrets. Those gentlemen, I understand, are on well-deserved time off. And I want to thank our CAO, Mr. Grant, for arranging his meeting so that he's here. It's nice to have one of the CAOs present. So thank you, Mr. Grant. And we have our clerk present, and I'll let the other mayors introduce their clerks. Well, so that's my opening statement. And Mayor Todd, if you'd like to go ahead.
Thanks, Mayor Stan. Not much to add to that tonight. Just want to thank our friends from Edwardsburg Cardinal for hosting us this evening. Great to be back here in Spencerville and to work together with all of us here from around the 3 municipalities. Just wanted to say I'm really looking forward to the healthcare recruitment update tonight and the recreation assets presentation. It's great to see the representatives. Prescott Family Health Team, we did discuss that briefly at the last meeting. We all know how physician and a potential nurse practitioner, Councilor Shankar raised that great point as well, to improve what we can offer here for residents, existing and our new residents, in terms of healthcare. So I think we're not going to see a whole lot of, serious action tonight. But I think the information being presented is going to be fantastic, and it's going to move us along on some very key aspects of what we need to do with the 3 municipalities and also with the United Counties of Leeds and Grenville with regards to position recruitment. We did extend an invitation to Minister Steve Clark this evening. He was occupied though, but he stands ready to assist us as always on these matters, but particularly that position recruitment. And I think we did note, Pat, correct me if I'm wrong on that. I think we did have that meeting in United Counties with Minister Clark before the last meeting. So definitely the minister is on that as well. So anything that does come out of these discussions, we'll be working with Minister Clark there as well. And he certainly stands ready to support us on that position recruitment. So other than that, just want to thank Edwardsburg Cardinal again for hosting this, and I look forward to the discussions this evening.
Well, thank you very much, Mayor Todd. And so the next item on the agenda, of course, is the presentation from the Prescott Family Health Team. And so obviously I want to thank, I think it was CAO Matthew Armstrong that kind of arranged that. So just a few introductory remarks before I introduce the 2 speakers. As Mayor Todd has indicated, our MVP, Steve Clark, met with the 13 mayors. That's the 10 mayors of the county and the 3 separated towns. He met with the entire group just after the last joint services committee meeting. And as he said to us at the time, he wanted to get the sort of the feel of the room, if I can put it that way, how we stood with regard to the issue of physician recruitment. And needless to say, all of the mayors have the same concerns. And we know that we're in a competitive position with the entire province when it comes to physician recruitment. And one of the things that Mayor or the MVP Clark undertook to do was to sort of convey our concerns to the Minister of Health. So as Mayor Todd has indicated, after the 3 mayors met to discuss tonight's agenda, we did extend an invitation to MVP Clark. Wasn't able to attend, but his office did send a follow-up letter that he had written to the Minister of Health following the meeting that he had with the 13 mayors after the Joint Services Committee. So he's addressing his letter to Minister Jones, that's Minister Sylvia Jones. Congratulations on your appointment as Deputy Premier and Minister of Health. I look forward to continuing our work together serving the people of Ontario. I wanted to update you on an issue in my riding regarding a lack of family doctors. We have had a large volume of calls from constituents concerned that they do not have a family physician. My office has proactively called every doctor's office in Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands, and Rideau Lakes. Only one office, pediatrician, was taking new patients, and in that case was only for individuals under the age of 18. Earlier this month, I convened a meeting with all mayors in my riding to discuss this issue. 2 suggestions emerged that require provincial action. The first is to train more doctors by adding additional undergraduate and postgraduate positions to Ontario medical schools. The second is to increase the number of international medical graduates obtaining a license to practice medicine in Ontario. I hope you will consider these suggestions helpful, and if you could update me on your progress to this urgent issue, it would be greatly appreciated by myself and my constituents. I look forward to pursuing this matter with you. So needless to say, I think Minister Clark and our MPP has captured 2 of the most important issues that were identified at that meeting with the 13 mayors, and he's relayed them. And when we get or whatever opportunities we get to lobby those 2 initiatives with the minister at the AMO conference, we'll certainly take advantage of moving forward with his letter. So with that little bit of introduction, it's my pleasure then tonight to welcome the Prescott Family Health Team. And we have 2 folks with us tonight, Dr. Diddy Matthew if you just give a little wave, and Tanya Merkley, if you just give a little wave, and I believe it's Dr. Matthew that's going to be making the presentation. Is that correct?
That is right.
So welcome, Doctor, and we're looking forward to your presentation.
First of all, thank you very much, Mayor Seo, for that introduction, and thank you to all the three mayors, all the councilors, and of course, the administrative team, for inviting us here to talk about the issue. So we had a little discussion initially, and it was brought to my attention that a lot of information is not out there, how our center operates and what are the issues that we face. Of course, there were some suggestions, and with our discussion, it was found that cities don't know what we know, and you know, if you guys know the issues, I think that way it would be helpful for all of us to find a common or a solution to a common problem. So I will start with the little introduction. You can go back to the slide. That's my little team right there, and at the background, that's our facility. So we don't have everybody, but this is a picture from this year's Doctor's Day. We have our physician, Dr. Gellum, who has retired. So this is just in the present. We have 2 retirements, and what a perfect time to come and talk to the council about this. Okay. So Prescott Family Health Teams is a provider-led nonprofit organization, and we started with a single physician practice back in 1968. You might know late Dr. Babb. So he was the founder and pioneer who started this practice, and eventually, you know, it led to a group practice. And back in 2007, we received the status of Family Health Team by the Ministry of Health. So with my discussions with a lot of our community partners, you know, we have found out that a lot of people do not really know what does this Family Health Team really stands for. So Family Health Teams, they were created to expand access to comprehensive family health care services across Ontario. So this was, you know, back in 2005, this initiative started. So which means a group of family physicians, nurse practitioners, registered nurses, social workers, dietitians, and other professionals under a common group to find care or provide care to their patients, not just acute and chronic, but also a lot of preventative programs. So approximately, there are 184 family health teams that exist in Ontario, and they serve over 3.4 million Ontarians in over 200 communities. So our work model, it is, so we're family health teams, and most of the family health teams that are around this area also work with the same model. So there are basically 2 entities that coexist under the same roof. So we have Family Health Team as well as Prescott Family Medical Associates. So Prescott Family Medical Associates, or PFMA, is the entity which is funded by the physicians, owned and funded by physicians. They have their own staff. So under that company, basically, doctors roster their patients. And whoever they roster, PFHT, which is a family health team, provide preventative healthcare services to them. And there are a bunch of healthcare services. I've listed them in the presentation, but I have another slide to talk about it more. But along with that, they also get access to specialists like internists and psychiatrists. So PFHT also has their own staff perform all these duties. Right. So our team, which is a blended model of these 2 employees, PFHT and PFMA, so one by the Ministry of Health and one funded by the physicians directly. We have 4 physicians, 3 are in Prescott location and 1 is in Brockville. We have 1 nurse practitioner who dedicatedly works from Prescott location. No, actually she is shared, Prescott and Brockville, but physician assistant is dedicatedly working from our Prescott location. Executive director, that means myself. I have 1 assistant who works closely with me. There are 4 nurses, social worker, dietitian, receptionist, and billing and food professional. So if we take a look at it, there are total of approximately 20 people on the team. And these are the services that we offer: primary healthcare services, which is, like I mentioned, acute care and chronic care. So if a patient has any issues, they come and see our doctors, but along with them, we also provide, along with those services, we also provide preventative programs like lung health management, hypertension management, weight, diabetes, smoking cessations, immunizations as well. And there are also social services that we offer. And along with that, some mental health and addiction counseling if needed. And then, as I said, or mentioned before, our patients also have access to specialists, psychiatrists and internists. So we have approximately 6,700 roster patients as of now. From these different locations of the Grenville area, and we serve all patients from birth to all ages. We have this map, and my staff was nice enough to help me with this map of creation of this map meets Grenville area. Basically, if you see the orange stars, so those are the locations from where we have our patients. And but mostly we get patients from Prescott, Augusta, Edwardsburg, Cardinal area, but you know, this is the whole location. And if you can see the Blue Cross, that is basically the location of family health teams in the region. Basically, in that region, we just have 4 family health teams that exist. And if you can see, in this tri-area, we just have 1 family health team. So the needs assessment. So we looked at the population of these 3 towns. We might not be exactly accurate, you might know better about the population, but we're very close. So if we look at the population of these 3 towns, we're looking at approximately 18 to 19,000 people. And like I mentioned in the previous slide, we just have 1 family health team located in that region, which basically means just 3 doctors. So that brings us to the issues. We've been talking about this, and I'm very glad that town also recognized the issue and asked us to come here and present. So that was very great. And like I said, perfect timing. So there is a big uneven patients to physician ratio. So if we look at it, we're talking about 18,000 people, and then we just have 3 physicians basically in this location. And if we look at the ratio, we're looking at approximately 6,000 patients under care of 1 physician, right? So that is very uneven. On the other hand, the population of these towns is tremendously growing. We're bringing business to the area, which means more population, but unfortunately, our doctors' workforce is not growing. Let alone that fact, we have a lot of unattached patients in the community. Still, again, we're not talking about future, at present. We do have a record of 600 only just from Prescott, but I'm sure the number is higher than that because those are the people who've gone to a particular location and registered themselves, but we have a lot of unattached patients lying out there without having a family physician. And on top of that, unfortunate stuff, which is physician retirements, we already have in a very small team of 4 physicians, 2 physicians retired recently, 1 from our Brockville location, 1 from Prescott. You all know Dr. Kellum, so they were nice enough to find their replacement. What if they had no replacement to give it to us? We would have been in a very bad situation. Our patients would have been without family physician. And then the other issue that is coming up, and how Mayor Seo had in the speech, our empathy also had recognized this. There is in general lack of family physicians out there. So, you know, very tough situation, but that's another thing that we have to recognize as an issue. Now, this is another one that I would like to bring it to everyone's attention. Here in Ontario, only physicians are allowed to roster patients under their care, which means not a nurse practitioner, not a physician assistant can roster patients. So to roster patients under our care, we definitely need physicians. And then on top of that, the maximum limit each physician can have is 2,400. So they cannot go more than 2,400 because that will create or bring negative implications, which leads, you know, of course, associated with financial stuff to the doctors. So that's something from the ministry. So they cannot have more than that under their umbrella. So at this point, if we again do the math, so there is not many people, again, 7,000 total population that we can probably hold under our umbrella. Even if we have nurse practitioners helping us to take care of those patients, the number unfortunately cannot move forward or beyond that. So of course, that brings us to an important discussion, which is clinician burnout. And at this point, although it's just not clinician, it's the whole medical fraternity. Thanks to COVID for these past 2 years, it's been a burden. But a lot is, we can see it, in physicians. So there's a lot of clinician burnout out there that we can definitely see. I would like to go to the next slide and then we'll talk. So these are before COVID-19. These are the general causes of clinician burnout, which is, family responsibilities, the time pressure, chaotic environment, which has become worse because of COVID, and then low control of the pace and the complicated EHR, which is our electronic health record system. Every year that's getting complicated. So on top of looking at patients and their care, physicians have to juggle all these things, and not to forget COVID. So because of COVID, we were not able to take new patients, although there was not a lot that we could, but at least few we could take under. But then because of all other protocols that we have to follow, short staff that we are at this point, and probably since the past 2 years, it has been a struggle. So, and we can clearly see clinician burnout, they are tired, they have requirements for aftercare, so it is not enough for them. And that brings me to the last one from the previous slide. Thank you. So if these physicians are not able to work properly or efficiently and effectively, the employees, so not only we will lose a lot of patients, or these patients will lose a doctor, but we will also lose our employees that are funded by the physicians. So those employees are also at risk. Of course, there are solutions, but those are difficult if we work individually, but we could find a way if we work together. So the first and the foremost is physician recruitment. So we need active assistance from the towns, because we have done it in the past. What I was updated was the team has gone out, I think, to these fairs at different medical schools, host. Somehow, I don't know, the messaging was not enough. We were not able to go as many times, and we didn't even know what are the proper channels to target this population. Plus there has to be a package, and we didn't have a great package to offer. So definitely we need some help with funding and some resources like outreach. There are some towns or some places that do offer these physicians some incentives as well. So something, a package that we can work together to offer these probably new graduates or somebody who needs to move away from this fast-paced life to simple, quiet life around this area. So, but we need to target. We do not know how and when to target. So we need help with that. And of course, additional help with other healthcare providers like nurse practitioners and physician assistants, but that would come only after we have a physician, because we need physicians to enroll for patients under our care. And also adding more value-based facilities in the town, like ultrasound centers, blood draw stations. We had our lab before COVID. It was functional. It was very helpful for the town of Prescott. But unfortunately, we had to close it down again because of COVID, and also some financial implications. It was too much to keep that up. So we could not offer. We do have plans to get that up and running, but it is a challenge. And at the same time, I was told ultrasound centers closest to our town is probably people go to Kingston or Ottawa, which is too far. And a lot of these patients have issues with their transport. The last one, sorry. The transport services to the nearby care facilities like blood draw stations, because so far the closest is in Brockville, and that is also an issue. A lot of patients don't really go to those sites, and then what happens is their diabetes gets affected or their hypertension stuff gets affected. But overall, it's affecting patient care. And I was updated in our last meeting by Dave and Matthew that we do have services. I think it's a transport.
The river route.
The route, yeah. So that is there, but I'm not sure if our patients really know about that services because something like that would really help the community. So that is it from myself, my team, and I'm open to any questions that the counselors or the mayors or the administrative team.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Matthew. You sure have painted a different picture than most of us were aware of. And I see where from your presentation, you really outlined a number of issues. And I don't know how to sequence or prioritize those issues, but the two big ones that I heard is you've lost your blood draw center, which I'm sure is an awkward situation, which means that you have to send somebody to another center to get a blood draw and a blood test.
Yeah.
So that's one that I think we could talk about a little bit. And then the other thing that you mentioned is that as far as recruitment goes, one of the things that you lack is assistance and a package.
Correct.
So I wonder, folks, around the table here, if we could just focus for a minute on the blood draw idea. And in my world, we travel to Winchester, and it's an independent organization that runs the situation in Winchester, but I can't remember the name of it. Life Labs. Now, is there any possibility of getting a Life Lab blood draw center in Prescott?
It could be. I think we had, I joined last year in April, but before, just before that, somebody had contacted them. And at that point, it was difficult for Life Labs to come there. Maybe the situation has changed now, and that is our plan for this next month to find out from Life Labs if they can offer. I know there is some arrangement in Athens, and that's what I'm thinking that it could be possible. But we have to find out. But in the past, they had declined.
Okay, so in order for Life Labs to operate a blood draw center, they would first of all need a location.
Right.
Now, is that something that we could help with? Do you have facilities within the building that you operate? Do you have a place where they could operate a blood draw center?
We could. We have a little space, like we were operating as labs. Again, it was not that big, but there is space for them to come and operate for sure.
They're a private company, as I understand it. Is there some way that we could help with, I'm gonna say, discussions with them to incentivize them to open a center in Prescott?
That would be wonderful.
All right, so that's one, Mr. Mayor, that's one thing that we might be able to do on a rather short-term basis. Now, so let's just open that part up for discussion to see if anybody has any ideas or questions around that issue, and then we'll move on to the issue of a package. So Councillor Cameron.
Yes, just a piece of information that Life Labs do operate a lab in Morrisburg at the St. Lawrence Medical Center as well. There is one in there, but it's only used for inpatient. In other words, you can't go there unless a doctor says it's time to go and have blood drawn. Either you have to go, as you said before, either Brockville or Winchester.
Any other questions? Yes, Teresa.
Thanks, Mayor Sale.
Councillor, sorry, my apologies.
That's all right. I'm glad that, and not surprised at all, that our CIO has mentioned our River Ridge service that covers along the river. We could possibly easily arrange to supply and subsidize tickets at your office to hand out and replenish at our cost with the 3 counties.
That would be great as well.
And that would advocate that service and with some motion, perhaps, something to consider anyway.
Can you give us some sort of an idea of how many, if we were going to supply you with a number of tickets, what would be an initial starting number?
You can start with minimal, probably 50 to 100 as well, and we'll see how the demand is. like I said, already people were not able to come in physically, and now we are able to come in, so that would, and this is something that we just started from 2 weeks ago. So we will get an idea pretty soon, but we can start something with, between 50 to 100 range.
Okay,
Yeah.
just looking to counselor before I get you second, but yeah, second, go ahead.
Yes, and also to, speaking of transportation, let's not forget, Rockville also has CPHC, which is a long-reaching arm. CPHC, and they do transportation services to doctors' offices, to life labs, to other clinics, so, but can't forget those people as well, because they do offer the transportation services.
So would they offer transportation if the doctor ordered a blood test? Who would they contact for transportation?
The contact that I'm aware of, which may have changed, is a person by the name of Kelly Moore
At
at
CPHC?
CPHC, and they have to go through a process to get registered, and then how it works is the patient calls CPHC, says, I have an appointment with Dr. X at such and such a time in Rockville, Kingston, Ottawa, Cornwall, whatever. And CPHC will do the transportation. Now, there is a fee for this. It's a relatively small fee, but there is a fee.
Any other questions with regard to this blood draw center? I think it's an important service that the health team needs. So go ahead, doctor.
My only question or concern there is that something that is associated with only their rostered patients, or would that be open to people who are rostered under a physician under a different umbrella?
The transportation service, I believe, is open, is wide open. If a patient has a need for transportation, I believe even if they have to go shopping, CPHC can get involved and make sure that they get to their appointment or wherever they're going. I don't think it's geared to a roster system or a physician system. If a person needs a ride somewhere, they have a number to call.
So there are two possible answers to the transportation thing, and I think we can, as a group, find a way to deal with that. So Councillor Shanker.
Dr. Matthew, thanks for coming today. Quick question for you. Life Labs is a private company, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
So would it be in our best interest to contact Life Labs, see if they want to open up a clinic or a location in one of these 3 areas that you could send your patients to?
Yeah, that would be great.
That would work good.
And do you know the pressure point or the contact point for Life Labs?
I can find that out for there. I don't know yet, but my office would know somebody from the office for sure, and I can share that information.
Okay, thank you. Now, other questions with regard to the blood draw center? Actually, it's quite a serious need when you're operating a medical practice, but the mayor talk.
Just a quick comment on that. I just, as much as this is, I mean, if we could get these services in small communities, fantastic. I'm not sure. I probably shouldn't say this negatively, but I think there's going to be a little bit of a reality check on that, just on numbers. I mean, getting clinics in small towns, villages, I think that could be a challenge. So the one number I'm just kind of focusing on here, and I just looked up because I was curious what the ideal ratio was, doctor to patient. What I found online from the WHO World Health Organization is 1 per 1,000, and we're obviously a long way off that here. So that's just the one thing that's kind of sticking in my mind, and it's that physician recruitment angle on it. So Dr. Matthew, I want to thank you so much for that presentation and for attending tonight, and for all you and everyone down there that the health team do, and welcome again as well to the area. You've been here over a year, I think now, is it? But
Right, a little over here, yeah.
never too late for the welcome wagon. So thanks so much for coming to Prescott in the area. But I am concerned about what we focus on this, and there's some good ideas with this. I think in terms of if there is that need, to help with transportation, but I've got to admit, that's one thing I haven't heard. I mean, certain people, I mean, in a rural area, don't get me wrong, are going to have issues getting to medical tests, appointments and everything else, and there is a need for that, whether it's subsidizing through the bus routes, CPHC working with. But that's one thing I've never heard. What I have heard is people that don't have physicians. So the only thing that I'm just concerned about, I'm not trying to get in the way of the process here with what we're talking about. But I think just to identify that is probably would you say that's the principal issue though facing us, is that physician shortage as opposed to the other areas?
Absolutely. I mean, if you look at it, there are, the major issues, minor issues. Again, I'm not saying minor is something that you don't have to care about, but definitely the major issue here is physician recruitment, for sure. But what I'm saying here on top of that is, even just to function, right, we do not have resources. So that's the blood draw station is one of those, not just everything, but one of those. Let alone that, like, we don't even have the whole staff, like, we're always short staff. And again, that's not us alone. I think at this point, every medical fraternity or facility is talking about that. So so there are a number of issues. The major one is still physician recruitment, and which is very expensive.
And that's one of the reasons why I just, we're gonna have to, I mean, this is such a huge challenge for us, and we're still a small area, we're a rural area, it's going to be a challenge to do that recruitment. So, and it's going to be expensive, I would say as well, so I'm just, and I have no conclusions to make here, just a general observation, that we're really gonna have to kind of winnow down what we're looking at and prioritize right off the bat. Because otherwise, I think we can just kind of get lost in the weeds of so much that needs to be addressed. And so that's basically the reason why I go back to focusing on that physician recruitment angle and that numbers game, which quite frankly, we are losing. And COVID-19 has certainly thrown another wrench into the situation for the entire province. So, thank you.
Can we go back to one of the other slides where you mentioned, there's two entities at work here. One is the family health team, which you called FHT.
Like ours is Prescott Family Health Team, and the same way, like we have different family health teams. Does that make sense?
Right, and then there was a slide about the associates.
Yeah, so usually that is Family Health Organization, or FHO, which is basically an entity, owned and run by physicians. And in our case, the entity's name is Prescott Family Medical Services, correct? So what happens is, Family Health Team has funding from Ministry of Health. And we have our interdisciplinary team members, like nurse practitioners, social worker, nurses, front staff, that does the work. But Prescott Family Health Team does not hold doctors, so doctors don't come under FIT or Family Health Team. They come under Prescott Family Medical Services. They have their own company, they're their own owners, they run the company, plus at the same time, they do fund staff, from their side.
Okay, so I just want to recognize Mayor Malenka. I know what happened. He definitely got mixed up in the Spencerville rush hour.
And
One
then
thing that,
one more thing,
I just interrupt for a moment. I apologize to the host and to the council and to invest. A rare event happened this week, and that was I didn't have any meetings and got busy this evening and lost track of time. And I got this text reminding me I'm on my God. Anyway, I apologize, and I'll try and pick up from my colleagues here what I missed after. And again, sorry.
I want to get to the root of this Prescott Family Medical Associates, I think it's called. Now, that's a corporate group. Is there opportunity for an outside doctor to join that corporate group?
absolutely, yes.
All right, now, one of the things I learned in a previous life was that a lot of new doctors want to be associated with a hospital that has up-to-date medical equipment. What is the best way for us to position ourselves? We know that you're busy running your practice. You don't have an outreach arm to go recruiting. What is the best way for us to position ourselves?
The main selling point here is because a lot of positions, specifically new graduates, they don't come out, you know, without, without financial burden. They come out with a heavy loan. But along with that, you know, so they are looking for financially something which is really strong, a package that is really there, and plus at the same time, something great to offer, which is having some contract with the hospital so that, you know, they get some time to work in hospitals, floors. You know, maybe somebody likes emergency care, so, you know, they can work at that point, not just family doctors, just having their clinics at some point. So we can get that package together, but the selling point here is the life along with that we offer to our physicians. So of course, incentives, but it's not a busy life. And I think people, like, for example, we have our new physician, you know, young family, I think this is the best place. And myself, you know, so I have a 2-year-old, so you do get the time to spend with your family. So it's not as good. We're not spending a lot of time in the traffic, which is a negative for, you know, bigger cities. So something like that, if we can make people, or we can present, which is not, we're not bluffing, that's a key factor. I think that would be great. But we have to get these people, I think, right off about to finish residency, or maybe something attached to the residency program. We do not offer that here in Brockville, so that's, I think that's also another big negative. If the hospitals can have a residency program, like specifically family medicine residency, that would be great, because these people would come here to work. And at the same time, they're able to see what this place has to offer.
And what is the holdback on Rockville Hospital having a residency program?
Not really sure, but we are having meetings to discuss this. I think it is coming out. Not sure. Maybe it's financial, but at this point, I do not have.
Who is involved in those discussions to get a residency program up and running at Rockville Hospital? Who's involved in that, in those discussions?
The president and.
Is there a place for the politicians to be involved in that discussion?
I'm sure, because politicians bring financial incentives, so I'm sure, yes, there could be.
I'm gonna open the floor now then for discussion, and I see Councilor Cameron, and I'm looking for other hands here around the table. Councilor Cameron.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you to Dr. Matthew. I'm just trying to get my position here. So Prescott Family Health Care. Now, are you, we'll say, in the same category as, say, the Bayshore operation, which is heavily in Brock?
No,
So we're talking two different. We're not talking oranges and oranges. Okay, so what would be your difference from what Bayshore does?
I am actually not sure exactly what they do, but we're not even similar to CHCs as well. So our model is completely different. But from our side, since we have 4 positions, and this is something new from the ministry, we also require to bump that number up to 6, probably by next year. So there we have a buffer time. But those are 6, you know, minimum number is a 6 positions. So and one thing that I forgot to mention, another thing which I've heard is an issue when doctors have to join new practice, people want less overhead. And when we are in small cities, like I said, you know, BFMA is funded by physicians. This is basically, they give their share of overhead. And usually we have 30% of their income, that's what is gone, or that is what is contributed towards BFMA, 30% of their income. But if we look at other cities, their overhead is much lower than that. So we also have one big negative as compared to the other places, our overhead is high. Because again, this is, we don't have a lot of doctors, right? Other places have a lot of doctors, so the cost is shared. But here, unfortunately, because the physician number is not as much, so each one gets sometimes even more than 30%. So that is one negative aspect. And a lot of times in the interviews, you know, new physicians are during recruitment, that's one question we get asked every time. What's the share of overhead?
Okay, now, Counselor.
And Dr., would you say most of that 30% or higher is staff and benefits? It is salary and benefits.
Yeah. And then overhead costs like in utilities and things like that. Right.
Other questions here, gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen? Yes, Counselor.
Thank you. There's always two sides to every coin, and it seems to me if you're trying to record and recruit a new doctor, and that's the question that you get asked, and you say it's 30%. At the same time you say that, you should be pointing out that the cost of a home in Prescott or Spencerville or Augusta is probably a third to a half what the cost of a home would be in Ottawa or Toronto or Montreal. And as you mentioned, the quality of living, the fact that you are not traveling an hour and a half to your new doctor is, I understand it's from Montreal, but under normal circumstances, you're a matter of minutes to the office rather than hours. So the time of day, so it seems to me those things should be emphasized as kind of the flip side of the coin to the share that they have to.
Yeah, absolutely.
Other questions, folks? Maybe I'll just insert another one. So the PFMA they have certain overheads. Is there any way that we as municipalities can assist with those overheads? So that the 30%, I realize by adding another doctor, that would reduce, because the overhead to a large extent is fixed. So the more physicians you have contributing to the overhead, the less per person. But is there any way that we as municipalities can assist in some mechanism with the overheads?
Absolutely. Rent is the quickest that I could think of.
What is it?
The rent for the space.
The rent for the space?
Yeah.
Okay, so you rent space from a landlord?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, I see what you're saying. Yeah, so that's one of your biggest expenses.
That is one of the biggest.
Okay, good. So that's a number, X. Other questions, Councilor Young?
Thank you, Marcel. Doctor traveling from Montreal is Dr. Telemangos.
Correct.
And he's been here for a number of years,
Or, if I'm not-
2 or 3 or 4. The new doctor, Dr. Black,
Dr. Cook.
Dr. Cook, right? He originally is from this area.
His wife is.
His wife is from the Brockville area, but he's not that far away either.
Yep.
And I think that's an advantage. If not everyone has the insight that Dr. Shanker has, growing up in a large metropolitan area and then coming to Prescott, and the light bulb just went on and he decided to move here. Not every person who enjoys the Toronto area would want to come to this municipality. Every year, there must be students that graduate from South Granville that want to go on to a medical career. Maybe not every year, but second year, whatever. We should be engaging with those people at the time of their graduation from South Granville. Our council does not give a bursary to anyone, to my knowledge, on South Granville graduation. If our 3 municipalities put together some money, if we got private donations from other large manufacturers in the area, we could give a graduating student going on to medical training $10,000 bursary, $5,000 bursary,
It's nothing compared to what their debt will be at the end of 6 years.
Yep.
But it's a help. And if we could, especially if we could tie conditions to it, saying, we're gonna help you for the next 6 years. But you gotta come back and practice in our municipality for 2 years or something. I don't know whether that could be done legally. But I think we should look at something like that and try and draw back a local student to this area. Obviously, they have family in the area, that would be a job for them. I think it's worth looking at. We could debate the numbers all night, but the point is, try and keep a local person coming back to the area.
Okay, there's some great ideas coming out of this discussion, and I know that Mayor Lang wants to.
Yeah, I'm gonna follow up the question of my colleague, Marcelo here. At the last county's meeting, they had did a little bit of a summary in the past of what was done in order to try and recruit and incentivize doctors to come here. And what we found, or what I learned, was that there was a lot of talk and an agreement on amounts that could be spent, but when budget time came, they never spent it. There was always something else. But I think the other thing that came to the foreground was the fact that everybody around the table has a concern about getting into bidding wars. And so the question is really, is this a viable or a profitable, productive route? And I have some reservations on hearing that, but I'm well encouraged by what you're saying, and that is the quality of life. I think that's something that we certainly have to promote here. I know that we've gone through the process at the health committee, getting a new medical officer of health. And I know in conversation that came up as one of the factors of considering taking a job here. So there's no doubt that that is on the minds of I'll say young people. Almost everybody's young compared to me these days, but of young people, and something that we really need to be emphasizing. But the other thing that I want to pursue is what Mayor Sayo has said, and that is to assist with the overhead costs. And I guess what's absent here, and I'm not hearing around the table, would be, is there interest in our doing that? And what amounts would we be looking at to make it substantial, and something that from your experience, you would say, wow, if the municipalities or municipalities prepared to put up that amount, then this is something that I would consider, or I guess what overhead costs bringing it down to would be acceptable, bringing it from 30 down to 25 or 20 or what? Can you give me any help?
Even if it is like a decrease of 5%, I think that would be good enough. And where we are operating at this point, we also had a COVID foot care services. So, we don't have room for that. And then what we were doing was taking one of the exam rooms and then converting that room as a foot care room, but that takes away patient care. So even if there is a new areas, and if it's a subsidized rent, I think that would be still, you'd be more than interested. Because that's gonna benefit our patients for sure. But like I said, 5% increase would be more than enough as well.
Interesting, thank you. Other discussion around the table here?
I just have a question.
Darren,
Thank you, Democrat, for coming. Just looking at the notes that you provided. And it says that there's 3 doctors in 3 in Prescott, 1 in Rockville under the family team. And it says that each one can see a maximum of 2,400 negative patients higher. On page 4 of your presentation, it says that there's 6,700 patients with family health team. Leaves a difference, the possibility of 2,900. The
Yeah.
difference in those numbers is 2,900. So does that mean that you're accepting 2,900 new patients, or?
The issue here,
math doesn't
that's a very good question. Thank you
yeah.
for that question. But here's the thing, like the MOH or Ministry of Health says maximum is 2,400. That's not at all practical for a single doctor in Shandor. new graduates, mind you, are willing to only take 800 to 1,000 patients. Ours already are running around 1,700, 1,800, so that's a lot. So 2,400 is just a number, but that's not at all practical. We definitely need more nurse practitioners and helping us to solve that. Because we just have one nurse practitioner who is fully funded by FIT, so doctors don't have to support that. But we have a BA who is supported by the physicians. Still, the overhead is a little more than 30%. So I do not see, having to have another staff. We're definitely trying to take more patients so that, it's a help for the community, because we have a waiting list, which is, I think, if I'm not wrong, it is up to 2 years. More than 2 years, thank you. So, more than 2 years.
Okay, that clears that up, so the math would.
No,
sense. So,
very good question. Thank you.
and so with Dr. Kellum retiring and Dr. Cook coming in, and yourself, 2 years, I think you said, or no, you have 2 years.
1 year.
So what were the deciding factors that actually made you want to come to, and for Dr. Cook to want to come back to our area? I mean, we've talked about a lot of incentives, we've talked about a lot of things, but ultimately, I think one of the things, Councillor Young said, and somebody else said about, being from the area or from a rural area would draw you back, but the people that are coming, what are the factors that actually brought them back?
Thank you so much. I don't know how many times people have asked me that question, who have brought my family to Prescott. No, I'm not from Prescott. So I'm originally from India. My whole family is settled in US. And we're a little like our combination, my husband and myself. We're both medical graduates. Then we went into public health, and I went into and got a business administration degree as well. Now, the whole thing was about experience. So when I was, or I graduated med school, I did some work in emergency care and acute care for almost 4 years. Towards the end, I got interested in research. So it's that curiosity. So it's that environment. And then once I got there, then jumped into public health, worked there, was beautiful. Then got introduced somewhere with management. And then I think for the past 8 years or so, I was in management back there. So it is that curiosity that drives me and my family to this place. And of course, the vicinity to my parents. So I came to ask for more. And then when I Googled, it was a beautiful place, St. Lawrence River. And I think most of the times during my interview, they sold me the place, giving me the view of my office, which is right next to the river. And of course, the commute, that if you're in the town, and which is literally, I'm just 2 minutes away from my work, and that has never happened in my lifetime since I've been a med school student. So for me, it was a lifestyle. I have 2 kids. One is almost 10 years and one is a baby, a little more than 2 years old. And absolutely, I can't ask for it. So it's a family life. And then our new doctor, Dr. Cook, is in the same boat. He has a young child, 2 years as well. So it's the same thing, less commute, more time for family. So yes, but one thing definitely I would like to put here is whenever that's my take on it. Whenever somebody had told me to stay here, you can't really move anywhere, so that's my kind of move. So, can't put me in a box, but that's one thing which is, are you happy? Are you content? Yes, you are, or yes, I am, then definitely. And then which my team said they were focusing more on med school students. I don't think so. When I joined med school, I wasn't sure which specialty I want to go. Where do I want to see myself at? So that's why I went around and, experience different floors. And then coming to find out totally different public health. So I think it's the residency point, or specifically family medicine residency, that we have to strongly focus and probably arrange something in the town so that these people can come here and work, not as a liability and not as something that they have to come and do here, but just as an option. And that's when they can experience this life. All my work places, I think, the minimum was half hour. I used to sit in traffic. I don't do that. And it's a joke in my family, 2 minutes I'm going to work. So it's like, we're gonna be able to walk to work. I think that's the selling point, for most of the physicians or healthcare professionals coming to this place. It's a beautiful place and, quiet. And wonderful. I hope I answered your question.
No, you did. Fantastic.
Thanks.
Counselor Dilaba. I'm looking for other questions around the table.
Thank you, Dr. Matthew. I guess where it's coming to is coming back to that residence program of the Brockville General Hospital. I wonder maybe with the three townships, two townships in the town of Prescott, if we could put a package together or a little bit of heat on the Brockville Hospital or maybe with Mr. Clark and see why we can't get a residence program going. Because it seems like that's
Yeah, that would be beneficial.
the big target.
Yep. I think I'm not sure, but Perth has a program very similar to. Again, I was not able to have a complete discussion on that. I can follow up on that. But they have something, a package for the residents. And they said that it's running successfully, so I don't see why not.
Counselor?
Thank you, Mayor Sayah. Dr. Matthew, is there any chance of like partnering with the med schools in Kingston and Queen's University or Ottawa? And where they would, send a resident down for a day or 2 days a week to your health team or Brockville health team to experience real life patients, as opposed to, or even Brockville General. I mean, that's another avenue that I'm sure you've thought about or looked into, but that's just something we're sitting here, we're trying to figure out how we can best help you help us, right? So that's just one idea. The other thing I was wondering about is, as a family health team, you're only allowed to see rostered patients.
Right.
So there's no, not even like, if we were to, one thing there was a discussion about was, if we hired a nurse practitioner that could work in different locations, would that be something that we could do through you guys?
That would be for sure helpful, because remember I said, the number of roster patients that we have under each position is approximately 1,700, that's a lot. So that will definitely bring the load down, but that's just the guard load down. We cannot take more.
So I think what we need is the load to increase. I mean, that's what we're talking about. Okay, thank you.
Okay, I don't see any other, Mayor Todd.
I'll just, and I don't want to step on the toes of the chair. I was just gonna suggest next steps. Because Dr. Matthew, I mean, this is a great, it does itemize pretty much what we need to do, what the issues are. So what I would, suggest for next steps is we create some sort of steering committee with the three municipalities. Invite Dr. Matthew if she's put you on the spot and commit your time, but you've done this, and I'd love to get your advice on an itemized list that we can really look at, and then we have to look at the budget, what's realistic for us, and then decide on where we go. And to me, the best way to do that is a smaller group with one or two representatives from each council staff. You've already had meetings with the two CAOs from the sounds of it, which that was obviously very productive. And I'd love to take, your advice on regards to putting together that itemized list to see where we need to expend our efforts first, what additional questions we need to ask and have answered. And as much as, I do understand the counties is working on this as well. Actually, I don't know, because I think, Doug, was that discussion held during county's council that you just mentioned?
Yes,
Or was it?
I seem to recall that, and there wasn't a lot of discussion, it was a history.
Okay.
Because the question would come up.
Because as much as I want to work with the counties, the only way we can really do this is by working all together as the 13 municipalities for the cost, economies of scale with the region and everything. But I'd like to see us, quite frankly, take a leadership role here, because I think we've got it in front of us. We're all motivated. We've got your fantastic advice on this. So that would be my suggestion going forward, is a little steering committee so we can keep pushing the ball forward, because there's a lot of groundwork we have to do. And the ideas here were phenomenal tonight, but we have to put them into something workable. And if Dr. Matthew, if you were willing to be involved in something like that, and something I would personally support here with this group so we can keep this moving. And I think we've also got the Minister Clark is heavily engaged on this now. So I'd love to move something forward from this meeting tonight. So we're just hoping to get some answers here because obviously this is going to be a long process. There's not going to be answers overnight. The sooner we can get to it, the better. So Dr. Matthew, if you'd be willing to do something like that, I would certainly support it here and we can start maybe working towards some solutions.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. John. That would be wonderful. That would be my pleasure. Certainly love to do that. Yeah.
So I would put that forward if there's general consensus around the table, just to keep this moving forward. This is just a fantastic discussion tonight. It's actually quite exciting that we're actually really looking at some real options here to address these physician recruitment issues in there.
So just to kind of wind up this part of the meeting and pick up from where Mayor Todd threw the challenge. I'm just going to do a brief summary here. And let me say that the overarching point that I'm going to be making here is that in all of the things that you've heard from Dr. Matthews, what is most required here is champions to get behind this issue. Mayor Todd has mentioned the concept of a steering committee or a group of what I could call a group of champions to pursue one or the others of these various initiatives. So let's just review just quickly, and I'm looking for champions that would join a sort of a small steering committee of maybe 3 to 4 people. But there are several issues. What contacts can we make with Life Labs to get a blood draw center in Prescott? That would save a lot of time and a lot of effort. What contacts can we make with the Brockville General Hospital to see what's the holdup on a residency program in family medicine? We need some champions here that are prepared to get behind these concepts. What is our mechanism and who would we get as a champion to organize a tri-municipal bursary, as mentioned by Councillor Young, that we might use to incentivize a local graduating student that's already made the decision to go into medicine? What efforts might we make to target and put together a recruitment package? Need people to step forward and say, I'd like to be part of that project. And let me say one other thing. In a previous life, our municipality owned the clinic and provided all of the overheads. We provided the rent, we provided the photocopier, we provided the paper, we provided the chairs. We provided everything that team was required to work within so that their overheads were minimal. We did that as an incentive. So I just wanted to put those out there. I think your mechanisms to identify yourselves as champions would be to one of us mayors or to one of the CAOs, but we definitely will follow up on that. Mayor Langton.
I would just like to pick up on what both of you said. I think they're excellent suggestions. But in your itemizing and also Todd's itemizing, I don't know that we're having one group. I mean, if someone is going to look and speak with the Brockville General Hospital about a residency program, that may be an involved talk. It's not going to be short. Similarly with all the other items. And so maybe we're looking at splitting the work out. In other words, we're going to what I think you suggested with Dr. Matthews of getting an itemized list of best steps forward, early steps forward. And then let's look at how we can divvy up the work and get it done, because there's two things going. We see the tremendous strength of our CAOs here. And also I'm sure that our counselors are jumping up a bit. But I just see us with a lot of different directions to be pursuing, and we really need to be organized in how we're heading. So we look for comments from everybody on that.
That is why I suggest the organization comes before the cart before the horse. Otherwise, but if we're going to get too far into the weeds in this, that's why I'd really like to hear more detailed suggestions on what's realistic and what should be itemized, because we're not gonna be able to do everything. And I don't think we should even try to do anything, but we definitely have to look at the priorities, and I think the smaller group will help hone that. And then exactly to Mayor Sayles' comments, we have to look at who's gonna tackle those other efforts and champion, whether it's to the Rockville General Hospital, Ministry of Health, Minister Clark. There's gonna be plenty of work on this for everyone, but I think it does start with a reasonably sized steering group representing each of the municipalities, and hopefully then we can get counties on board.
Okay, so with those few recording, concluding remarks, I want to thank, Dr. Matthew for coming. I think, Doctor, you've given us quite a number of things to chew on. And I think you've also raised the educational level of the exactly where we are with the issues. So I want to thank you for coming. Want to recognize as well, Tanya Merkley coming with you. Thank you very much. And so we'll see what develops from here, and hopefully you've pricked enough consciences that we'll get some people coming forward to join the effort here. So thank you very much. And so now I'm going to move on, and the
Mayor, so I'd make a motion on that now, that we do endorse the creation of that steering committee. I think, why wait? So I would put that forward, that we endorse that like we've done in other items, and we move it back to our councils for the councils to finalize it and select the representatives that each council would assign to such a member.
Okay, now, and I myself, I feel that all of the counselors have heard the issue. And it's up to, I think it's up to individuals to come forward here. I don't think it's something that I can assign to somebody. I don't think it should be assigned. I think it's up to champions to come forward here. That's my feeling, but Mayor Todd's got a different suggestion. So which way do you folks prefer to go? It's up to you. I mean, I think you've heard enough. If you know that this is something that has to be discussed at the council level, for sure. There's money involved here. Councillor Shankar.
I'm ready to second that motion.
Okay, so what is, let me just go to the clerks and see if the clerks have captured the intent of the motion here.
Through the chair right now, we have the Tribe Municipal Council endorse the creation of a steering committee for the physician recruitment.
Okay, that's the simplicity of it and pretty much captures it all. Is there any discussion here around that motion? Go ahead.
Mayor, so just, it might be useful just to include at the end, a provision that would be referred to each individual council for representatives, just to, but otherwise, no, that's great. Thank you.
Okay, everybody understands the intent of the motion. It's duly moved and seconded. I'm going to call the question. Those in favor? Okay, I declare the motion carried. Thank you very much. Okay, so I'm moving on here now to item number 8, which is a focused discussion. And I see an A and a B. And the first is the cross promotion of recreation assets and tourism events. And then under the subheadings, website, social media, presentation by Dana Valentine, Economic Development Officer, to be provided during the meeting. So Dana, I believe that you're up then, please.
Right. So we've participating in these meetings since day one. We've been actively recording, noting council's comments, suggestions, thoughts when it comes to the recreation and tourism asset inventory. And I think we've captured a good sense of the intent and the direction that the group was hoping that we would take with this. A lot of suggestions have come out to date as far as, what is the best platform to use to try and amalgamate all this together into one, nice, easy, user-friendly directory that can be easily searched and promoted across throughout our 3D.
Thank you very much for your attendance.
So our initial suggestion or recommended approach for this is the development of a website that would be hosted and managed by the partners. We actually have a staff member, contract staff person in place right now, our digital Main Street coordinator, who does have some available hours that we could allocate just to add to her contract, we would propose bringing her in for an initial 20-hour period, and that would be to actually work on the development of a new website, the mock-up, the frame, start building the actual content, getting all of the content that we have to date in the tourism asset populated, and then actually manage the ongoing content, population of that, keeping it fresh and ensuring that it is, promoted as well. So that would be a big piece of this, not only the website development, but that person would also take on some level of responsibility for ongoing regular promotions through whatever platforms we so choose, to kind of really be directing that message through. So we would recommend, there's a number of website providers that you can use. The one that we're actually working with right now for the River Red project is WordPress. So they're a very reputable provider, really user-friendly platform. You can go in and develop a website from scratch using a number of templates that you can then kind of modify and update to, you know, make it really unique to our 3 municipalities, or design something completely from scratch. We had an initial conversation with the digital Main Street coordinator just to ensure that this is something that she was interested in, which it is. She's very excited about the possibility of taking on this project. She's got the skill set, a way above and beyond the needed skill set for this, and that's why I think she'd be an excellent person, not only to develop the website, but to really promote it and spread that message, and, you know, ideally get as many people participating in the plethora of events and programs and facilities that we have amongst 3 partners. So that would be our recommendation, would be to manage it in-house. The other option that we looked at was a third-party provider. You could hire a third-party consultant to do this. It would be a very expensive undertaking though. It would be looking at anywhere from, I would say, $10,000 to $15,000 to hire an outside provider to come in, design your website, and also provide you with the ongoing content. So it's certainly an expensive undertaking, and I firmly believe that we have the expertise in-house to do just as good of a job. And we would also have greater oversight and management over that. I can tell you, I've worked with third-party companies on websites and platforms like that in the past. And it can be difficult because now you've got another layer that you've got to go through. And when it comes to even simple updates, new content, if we've got an event happening this weekend, we can immediately get it on there and communicate it out to the public. Whereas sometimes if you're going through a third-party provider, it has to go in their queue. They may not be able to get to their weekly edits for, you know, another 5 days, and we miss that opportunity. So I think it would give us a lot greater ownership and control if it's something that we managed in. I think the biggest factor in the success of this, and it really is irregardless of whether you outsource it or do it in-house, is the 3 partners. And coming to the table and always providing that fresh, ongoing content, you know, making sure that it doesn't become stale dated within a month or 2. So, you know, I think we all, when you've got this original initial asset inventory built, that is great, but it's a living thing. So it's always changing. It's not just a matter of we do this website and we're done and we can kind of walk away, promote it here and there. It is very much a work in progress, and I really want to stress that importance of it's a true partnership amongst the 3 municipalities, and I think it's critical to have the staff in each partner almost tasked with that responsibility, whether it be just providing that regular information, and then we have an individual in Prescott that manages the actual content population. That would be our recommended approach, but I really think it's critical to have kind of a point person in each of our partners that is really going to take an active lead on that. And as I said, that's regardless of whether you go with a third party or in-house. And then on to the next slide, we just kind of looked at some of the social media options. You know, it's not just about developing this website. We've got to promote it and communicate it to residents and visitors, to all the great things that we have going on in our respective municipalities. So we've got your traditional platforms from Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. We would actively utilize a combination of all of those platforms. you know, I think one of the decisions that would have to be made around this is, do we look at developing a standalone brand for this that would kind of feed in to the website? Or do we start using our own, the pages that we already have and the platforms that we already have? Each of our municipalities definitely has Facebook. We don't all have Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. I think we have a combination through each partner. So there's that decision that would need to be made. Our recommendation at this point would be start with the website, get it to a place that we're really happy with, promote it for our own independent social media platform. And then, you know, maybe 6 months in, take a look, and then we can make a decision at that point whether we think it's viable to actually develop our own standalone social media platforms as well, which would support that website. But it's a lot of work, and I think a lot of the main focus should really go into developing that online presence, that website. And, you know, I think there was a suggestion of maybe using just social media, you know, maybe we just develop a Facebook page, and that is the source of all this information. And I think the one concern from that approach would be, it's not going to function as a website. So it's very difficult based on what we're trying to do in creating an actual inventory that's searchable, where you can actually look for different events, programs, recreation facilities, whatever it is that you're trying to find. It would be very hard to create a database like that through Facebook as the main platform. So I think that really should kind of be the promotional arm, and still have a standalone URL website that just gives you that much more robust ability when it comes to the content you're providing and the functionality for users and making it user-friendly as possible. So that would be our recommended approach, would be the hybrid of a standalone website and then using our partner social media pages for the initial 6 months, and then revisit it and consider potentially a standalone dedicated social media presence as well. And then we just went into promotions, just talked about some of the key areas of promotion that we would focus on. Of course, digital would be the primary avenue for our social media. Is again a very big platform through our respective websites. There's a lot of third-party digital promotions that we could do. We could even get into Google, SEM. You know, there's a lot of options that we could explore, all for very, you know, fairly cost-effective budget. And again, that's a part of the conversation too, is do we want to look at allocating an actual budget, or really just trying to promote this more from an organic approach that doesn't necessarily have a significant ad spend tied to it. And I think based on the presence that we have and the followings that we have through our social media, I think we could do a really great job organically at first, and then maybe look at some paid boosted advertising if you feel that we just aren't getting the uptake or the visitation that we were hoping to. And I really think one of the biggest, the next top areas of promotion would be the local influencers and ambassadors, so the people sitting in this room, the people utilizing the website to find out information about programs, services, and events. It's really us as a team that I think has to take on the responsibility of cross promoting it and sharing wherever we possibly can. And then maybe identifying some of those users in our respective municipalities and trying to hit maybe a nice broad mix of demographics. So maybe you have like a youth ambassador that can speak to, and we could do some promotion through social media that speaks to, you know, what a benefit the website is for them and their friends and how they're able to connect. And it's good social networking. Whereas maybe, you know, someone, a 55+ member of our communities, it's a great opportunity for them to connect, to meet new people, get to medical appointments, find shared transportation. There's a lot of, you know, different avenues that we can take with it. And I really think, depending on how we design it, it truly could be a resource and a one-stop information source for a very broad demographic of our population. And then I just provided you with kind of an example. These are just an example of what we found out in the world as far as some, you know, what some other municipalities are doing. We certainly aren't the first to explore this, but I would say we're definitely taking a very progressive approach and having that partners, municipalities from different regions actually coming together and partnering on this. A lot of what I was able to find was very much standalone, either county-led or larger municipalities taking the lead on that. But I think this is something very progressive, and I think we could take a real, we could be a real leader in this and set up, some best practices for maybe other regions and municipalities to model. And just some of the examples that I found, I think that we could develop a very user-friendly, exciting, fun website that people are going to gravitate to. And it would really become a key source of information for our partner municipalities moving forward. And really a chance to better engage with residents and hopefully better promote the amazing plethora of things that we have. Like, I continue to be blown away every time I look at that inventory. There's something new that we're adding to the list or something. And I think now that we're doing it, I'm getting recommendations from other people, right, who've heard that we're doing and say, oh, have you heard of this? This would be a great. So people were getting a buy-in here. And I really do think that once we get it up there won't be any lack of engagement. And then for next steps, really just kind of recommended, depending on the level of support that we have here tonight, would be to begin the website design, essentially bring a mock-up, a rendering forward to the group, so you can take a look at, what we're recommending for the actual layout content, and then get the asset inventory database finalized. That will of course be a critical piece, I would say, for probably 90% there, and then compiling descriptions and pictures for the different listings. So I think, there's a lot of that content that we need to be prepared. So it is a visually, aesthetically pleasing site and not just simply a database, right? You've got to have those visuals with it and some really nice, exciting descriptions. Again, our staff person is fully capable of preparing that really exciting, suggestive content that would go into that. And then getting the inventory supporting materials uploaded to the website. And then the launch and ongoing maintenance, and then ongoing promotions as well. So we're estimating about 20 hours of internal staff time to do the initial website development, content population, and then approximately 3 hours a month and $50 posting cost per month. So you're looking at about $250 a month for the ongoing cost. And as far as the website hosting, that's only a $50 a month cost. It's a very reasonable approach going through the provider like WordPress. Very affordable. They have different modules that you could add if you really wanted to, like say, if you wanted an e-commerce platform or something, along those lines down the road. Lots of additional options, but what you get for their base price, it's a very robust site, and I have no doubt that it suits the purposes of this. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dana. That's a pretty comprehensive presentation. I just want to make sure that I've understood a couple of points from it. So you're initially on one of your first slides, you showed an initial upfront cost of $1,000. Would that be per municipality?
That's the total. So that would be the total. That would include the 20 hours for the digital Main Street coordinator to actually develop the frame itself and get the initial inventory populated to it, as well as the $50 a month ongoing hosting cost for the website. And that includes the domain registration as well. And I think one of the other, which I believe I neglected to mention here, is the actual domain. There would need to be some discussion around the branding and what we want to call it. So certainly would be looking to this group for more direction on that.
Okay, so it was $1,000 total plus the $600 per year.
Yes.
Okay, so each of us would be in for 1/3 of 1,600. Okay, so that clarifies that. Now, the last question that I want to get clear in my mind, is there any mechanism by which each municipality could update their their data directly as opposed to going through an independent third party or a third party.
Or having one manage it, absolutely. We can set it up in such a way that each partner could have a login to that website and manage their own content. Would
Okay,
absolutely take that approach. Once we've got that initial design frame set up, I would still recommend probably using one person to get your initial setup done. But if each partner wanted to take on that ongoing content population, we would be more than happy to take that approach. I think, just for your own frame of reference, the reason that we went with this route is just knowing that we do have this additional staff person in place on a contract basis who does have some hours available that we can allocate, but more than happy to entertain an alternate approach.
okay, the chair is open for discussion. Councilor Shankar.
Great presentation, Dana. I'm used to this because I've seen Dana's presentations before, so this is good. Just to your point, Mayor Seo, I think it's a little more than $1,600. It's probably gonna be around $1,000 per municipality.
That's not what I heard.
Well, it's right there. It says $1,000 initial and 150 a month.
This, I don't have this presentation. I don't know why I didn't get it at the beginning.
So we're probably looking at a total of 2,800 for the three of us.
Okay, so it's. Okay, so you're saying 2,800,
For the whole year, the whole calendar year.
so that's 2,800 divided by 3.
So less than $1,000. For $1,000 a year, I think this is a great asset for our three municipalities, and it will drive people to the events and to our municipality. And I honestly think stuff like this is what will help us recruit positions. You know, look at our website, look at what we've got to offer, regardless of what we name it, you know. I don't want to get stuck on what we name it, but I think this is something that we should look to do as soon as we can.
Further discussion? Yes, Councilor.
Thank you, Marcia. I think this is an excellent presentation. I think that we have to walk before we run. We don't need to reinvent the wheel here. We can provide some linkage between each municipality to bring all of our events and sporting and everything else that's happening to the one, which would be a simpler process, right, Dana? Yes. Yeah,
And it's
so,
one resource that we are all populating our information to. And even if, you know, that's something that each municipality wanted to gradually transition out of, you know, having so much content on our own pages and really be driving all of that to this one standalone, you know, that would really where I would recommend taking ours.
so, thank you. So in the beginning, I was the one that mentioned the, you know, collaborating all of us together for the recreation and culture activities. And for having been involved in the soccer program for many years, we didn't know that hockey was starting the end of August. And if that was provided to our organizations, to both organizations, maybe we could have worked together to help those children be involved in both. Right? So this is definitely a great first start in creating a website that's going to help each and every municipality here. So, you know, I would be in favor of this. Thank you.
Okay, I have Mayor Todd and then Councilor Hunter.
Just want to thank Dana for the presentation. The numbers are dead on. This is quite frankly why I proposed this at the last meeting, because it's simple, it's cheap, and it's gonna make a difference. For all the reasons Leanne just mentioned and Gloria mentioned as well. This is the kind of, it's the low hanging fruit that we need to go after. The only thing I would say is, well, I'd be a little bit cautious about too many cooks. No problem with each municipality controlling certain area, whatever, but I know when you have multiple people updating the website at the end of the day, you can have somebody upload something that breaks something. You just want to be cautious about that. So for $150 a month, to have one coordinator, whether it's the person based in Prescott or Cardinals, Prensacle, Timbuktu, I don't care, but I'd just be careful about that, just for the overall operations. And the other thing I will mention is just on social media. I think we have to be cautious about social media platforms. We've seen a lot of people leave Facebook. And I do know that, and it actually can be challenging in this area to get updates on businesses, municipal things. Like I know we use Facebook a lot more than we use Twitter, for instance. I don't know about Instagram, because I'm not on there, but it just, that is a challenge as we are seeing people sort of migrate away from the social media platforms. So I think, because Dana, you did mention that and you didn't advise it, which I'm glad you didn't, but because it's just the website at the end of the day, that's a base platform. Anybody can access on their phone, whatever, at any time. So I think you've got to have that as the foundation, and we've got that for this really cheap outlet. So no, I fully recommend this. I think it's a great idea, and it's something that I think we should leap on, and hopefully all three councils will support this when it goes back to us after this discussion tonight. So good job, great stuff.
I have Councillor Hunter and then Mayor Malang looking for other speakers.
I kind of agree with, and I think it's a great thing to put it all in one thing, but hook it to our existing websites. And I'm just, all kinds of websites set up. How do you find them where people are already anything to do with the townships? They're looking to Prescott, Augusta, Edinburgh sites, click on through the door and the link from takes to this great website. It's great. My only concern is as Leanne mentioned about soccer not knowing when hockey was starting. The only way this website is going to function is you got to have the buy-in of all the different associations, not just the three townships here that's got to buy into it. I know this township has tried 2 or 3 different times in events calendars, and they failed because people wouldn't put the stuff in. And I don't think any municipality has the staff that can be dedicated to going out to every community events and going on around trying to find out the dates. But they have people's got to, but we got to have some mechanism to get all the different groups, fairs, lodges, legions, ball, soccer, hockey, to buy into it, that they're going to feed the information into whoever, whether it's one coordinator or every township. I think it'd be great if it works, but we'll get all our municipality stuff. We'll get about that. It'd be great for that, where we actually get. I think, but most of us are looking for that we don't get. Prescott having a big event on 4th of July, and Spencer having a big event, Augusta having a big event, and everything fails because nobody gets 1,000 people they thought they were going to get. So I think it's great. I'm in support of it. I think it's going to take a lot of promotion work by all the councillors and getting the press to buy into it to promote it. Events, if you're looking for an event, go to this new website. If you want to list an event, go to the coordinator and get your events bet on it. That's the only way it's going to end up.
Mayor Malang, and then looking for other speakers.
Thank you. I guess my presence here gives that expression better away than ever, because there's been 2 fantastic presentations tonight, which is really providing answers, at least suggestions of good directions to head in, to really start making meaningful progress on this. I think, Dana, thank you. It was a tremendous presentation. I especially liked the idea that you were saying that, or recognizing that as we're moving forward, even at the speed we want to go, that there's going to be opportunities in these meetings, these council meetings, to have presentations by the individual doing it, and to get feedback and to talk about some of the things that others are thinking we need to get to. For example, a common branding. I don't think, and I think I heard that you say that we don't need to be there yet. We need to get it working and going, and then we can take it into sort of the next stage. So I'm perfectly prepared from my perspective to support all that you've said, and I'm really impressed by the fact that this whole business of partnership, this is an example of how it works. You have a resource person that has some time and a commitment to a particular one of the partners and an interest in working for all of us. And I think that just bodes well for the way it helps us to move into concept into actual work. I'm certain there's going to be glitches or things we want to talk about along the way. And I think they'll reveal themselves and give us an opportunity to solve as they come. But I think we've got to have a motion that we take back to our councils to essentially follow the direction that has been provided. Sounds like a motion.
And if I can, I will jump in. Something I didn't like to mention is that the individual that we've identified, our digital Main Street coordinator, is actively working for all three partners right now, delivering the digital Main Street to all of our businesses. So she's also very well versed in the three partner municipalities and very excited about the opportunities that all three of us bring to the table. So, you know, by no means is this a Prescott person. She is very much working for the three municipalities already.
And I had Councillor McConnell, yeah, and then Councillor Burton again.
Thank you. Question first of all, Dan. And I echo Gary's, Glory's comment, it was a great presentation. Do we currently have on the town of Prescott website, which I believe we just redeveloped not long ago? Do we currently have everything that you're intending to put on it?
Not in that concentrated, user-friendly, you know, easy to digest, easy to search way. No, it's somewhat disjointed because you also have different departments involved in different aspects, right? Like we will have our recreation and events maybe living under one page, and we can have tourism living under another, and there's some overlap there, which you would find in this amalgamated website where you have that whole gamut of municipal program and the third party program that you had mentioned that, Leanne. That's a critical piece too. It's not just the municipalities. It's also engaging all those third party groups and making sure that they have a presence and a voice through this platform as well. But I would say yes, but in a very roundabout way. Councilor McCall, like this information would live in some shape or form on our website. It's certainly not in the easy to digest manner that this website would bring forward.
Well, then, in that case, I find it very disappointing, in the redevelopment of our own website, that what you're saying is it's not user friendly.
But they're not, my argument would be they aren't intended to be. They are user friendly, but they aren't always intended to have those pages blended within each other. There is an argument with your municipal websites that they would have a standalone presence. Your recreation would be separate from your tourism, but that's where this website gives us that opportunity to really amalgamate those things.
Well, I gotta be honest with you, this reminds me of a few years ago when I used to get 3 telephone books, when everybody had landline. We used to get 3 telephone books and I would just automatically throw 2 of them out and keep 1 because how many telephone books do you need? How many websites do you need? If you're looking for something in the town of Prescott, I would be tending to look at the town of Prescott's website. Would I go farther and would I even know that this existed? I'm not saying it's not a good idea, but I gotta be honest with you, I'm not buying in on it from what I've heard and seen so far. From what I've heard and seen so far, it leads me to conclude that our own website of the town of Prescott is severely lacking.
Councillor Burton. Councillor.
Sarah. I would like to say a motion about creating a joint website with the 3 municipalities.
I'm happy to second.
Thank you.
Okay, so now just hang on a second. I have Councillor Burton putting forward a motion. And Counselor Deschamps, or Deputy Mayor Deschamps seconding it, but I don't have any wording yet. So I'm just gonna wait a second here while the clerks put a wording together. Don't like voting on motions where we don't know the wording. I think I understand the intent of the motion, but it's the words that mean everything. To the clerk. To the clerk.
Through the chair so far, just quickly drafted, I can kind of wordsmith it once we write the minutes, but that the tri.
No, we don't, we don't write motions after we vote on.
I would note that we usually use endorse in these meetings. I think that's what we use in all along. It's kind of a neutral word to get it back to the councils without committing on. So
Endorse the concepts.
Yeah.
Okay, so to the clerk.
So through the chair, what I've drafted so far, the tribe council endorse the creation of the tribe municipal website and bring it back to their current list, to the municipal councils for further discussion.
Okay, now is that the intent of the motion? Is that to the seconder?
Yep.
Yeah. Yes. All right, so everybody gets the concept here. Further, okay, Mayor Todd, the motion's up for discussion here now. So Mayor Todd, and then I have Deputy Mayor Deschamps.
Just on the motion, I just wanted to, Councilor McConnell's point, and actually, you know, Councilor McConnell is correct in this in some ways, and Dane is correct in others. Because one of the things about municipal websites, and you'll find it with all of them, and ours is no different than the others, I do think the redesign does work. But the problem is they're designed as catch-alls. They're like, you know, they're like the phone book. And the problem is, when you're gonna look up for something in the phone book, it's great to be able to find things alphabetically and so forth. But with municipalities, you both sort of have multiple listings for multiple departments and so forth. And it's always a challenge to find it, which is why, to me, when I go to look up anything in any municipal website, I don't bother with it. I just go right to the search function and try to take myself directly to it. This, I think, and I don't know if it would change your mind on it or not, Lee, but just for context, this is promotion. This is pure promotion, and it links back to the individual websites and information on this website. It's just a single location that promotes all events, recreational resources, and so forth for the entire area. So it actually does serve a very different purpose than a municipal website, and for not a whole lot of money. So I just did want to mention that, because I see your point, and you're absolutely right when it comes to municipal websites, because they can be a major pain in the ass to find their way around it. That's not just ours, it's all. This actually, I think, would serve a really good focused purpose. But that's why I would support this.
No, I had other speakers. Oh, you stepped in.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. To the Economic Development Officer, Dana, thank you for this presentation, fantastic. You know, I'll point out, you know, 3 municipalities here listening to Councilor McConnell, and I think that, you know, even with our new redesign and ours, there are certainly things that keep tweaking, keep getting better and all that. But the reason that there's 3 municipalities sitting here is to create, you know, collaboration between those, not to worry so much about our individual silos, but try to create ways that we can continue to work in a positive manner together. So, you know, we've just had a almost hour-long discussion over a $3,000 website. We get probably over $24 million in budgets. It seems a bit ridiculous that it's still going on to me. So we need a promotional, like Mayor Todd said, a promotional website to help people find assets that we have. We had a recreational roundtable in at Sierra Hall a couple of years ago. We kicked that can down the road. We've done nothing about it. And here's another way that we can put together something for $1,000 for our residents to find the assets that we have, not only in our township, but in Augusta and Prescott. It's great.
Other speakers before I call the question on the motion? Counselor Young.
The purpose will be to move people from one municipality to the other to go to an event. We're just in Prescott, just looking for Prescott events, that's one thing. If you're going to this event, we'll find out about your, what was it, Pat? Thursday night
Oh, Spencerville at the minute.
Yeah, I'm saying-
Music in the Square.
Yeah, so, that's what this website will do, correct?
And that's the beauty of it. So maybe your thing is music and you want to find where all the summer concerts are happening in these 3 townships for the summer. And then you can go there, hey, I can go to Spencerville on Thursday. I can go to Prescott on Sunday. I'm sorry, I don't know. I'm sure that there's one happening in Augusta. I just don't know the example right now, but I'm sure there is, right? So maybe that's your thing. And you're looking, and that's that one-stop shop now, is you found one source and you can get that information on where I can get my summer
well,
concerts.
I'm gonna interject here because I don't think anybody heard really what the intent of Councillor Hunter was saying. Spencerville's Music in the Square, unless those people that are organizing Music in the Square notify our clerk or our person or the person in Prescott, I don't know who. Unless the other organizations buy into this, you get the same situation. And, you know, I mean, I'm just thinking of 3 or 4 things right now that I'm quite aware of because they're in my township. And, you know, Spencerville Business and Community Connections is also organizing Music in the Park. And as well as that, the Spencerville Mill Association organizes Music at the Mill. And there's 4 concerts at Music at the Mill. There's 4 concerts here at in Spencerville, but they're not. I mean, I don't even think they're on our township website because they haven't told us. And I think that's the point Councillor Hunter was trying to get at. But anyway, I don't want to get into the debate here. I'm just trying to make sure that everybody understands the whole context here. So I had the last speaker that I had was actually was Deputy Mayor Deschamps, and I don't have any other.
If I can go again, just
Back
one
then.
yeah, just wanted to say, you know, and I think all of us through the pandemic saw the work of, I believe it's Liz Wallace, yeah. And the Digital Main Street program. We've heard, you know, on more than one occasion at our council table, what a fantastic job that she's done and how successful that project has been for the many businesses that suffered through COVID. So having her on board to do this and to do this certainly gives me a lot of confidence simply because of the work that she's already done with a lot of our 3 municipalities and the business connections that she has and the knowledge of our area. So and I mean, quite frankly, the development of those websites too. Good.
And Councillor Shankard and looking for other speakers.
I just want to add that, like, you know, I think this is a great first step. It's something to set up for all 3 of us. And, you know, as Councillor Hunter said, you know, we got to get buy-in from everybody, but that's up to those organizations. They'll see the success with this. They'll want their name on it. You know, no matter how much social media we use, you still have people saying, oh, I wish I knew about this. You know, and you're like, man, it's all over the place. It's in the paper, it's on the radio, it's on Facebook. You know, there's still gonna be people that are gonna not see it. But the sooner we get it going, the longer we have it going, the better it'll be for everybody. So I'm in favor of this motion.
Okay, so the discussion is all centering on the positive here, and as somebody's already mentioned, you know, if we're all on the same page here, I'm not hearing any negative speakers. When you don't hear negative speakers and you don't hear 2 sides to the argument, it's time to call the motion. Councilor Burton.
Thank you. Just one last word. I think it lies on our shoulders as well as councillors, part of the municipality to promote the website. If you're finding out that there is an event or the figure skating club, tell them about it. It's word of mouth. Word of mouth goes a long way. And have them buy into our website. Thank you.
Okay, I'm not hearing any negatives, and so I'm gonna go back to the clerk and ask the clerk if you would read the motion one last time. So it's moved by Burton and seconded by Deschamps. You would please?
Chair, the
Tribe Municipal Council will endorse the creation of the Tribe Municipal website and bring back to municipal council. Sorry, for further discussion.
Okay, that's the motion that's on the floor. No further discussion. I'm gonna call the question. Those in favor? Okay, I declare the motion carried. And I'm moving on now then to item number 8B on the agenda. 8B on the agenda is an update on the municipal drug strategy. And I guess Mayor Malenka, you're gonna give us some sort of an update.
Yeah, it's gonna be an update, really brief. When I mentioned it at the last meeting, I had been in contact with Joanne Desarno at the health unit. And our expectation was to put together a meeting. If you recall, I had asked for representative from each council to identify themselves, because the plan was to meet with Joanne Desarno again, the health unit resource person will help us get going with this thing. And for just a small group to have a discussion essentially about how do we actually fire it up again. Unfortunately, Joanne was heading for vacation, and we were not able to get a meeting. We thought the week immediately following the tri-council meeting that we were going to meet with Joanne, but it didn't work out, and then she went on holidays. I spoke with Dr. Stewart. I was concerned that we get off to a great start, and being the chair, I get to speak to the good doctor from time to time. We're going to look at if Joanne is too busy, we're going to look at another resource person. And I think that the only thing I would add is that Dr. Stewart made a presentation on the weekly, or it's become a monthly, bi-weekly conversation with mayors and CAOs, that she used the example of the Lanark Planet Youth Program, and basically suggested that that's extremely successful program, and that's likely the model that the health unit will be proposing and suggesting. And so when we have our meeting, it will be discuss things like who are we going to invite to the meeting, who will be part of it, and how we're going to get it kicked off. I know that at the first version of the municipal drug strategy, the thinking was more along the lines of providing information to you and encouragement to stay away from drugs. The direction of Planet Youth is a little bit different. It is more inviting youth to be coming and telling us what they need. And so I think when we get the presentation from the health unit, resource person will become a little more clear to us about what exactly is going to be involved, and we can also formalize them when we're going to have the meetings, how frequent, who's going to be involved, and how we go from there. So I would expect that I should be hearing back from the in the first week of August, because they did take the holidays in July, and I really can't offer much more than that. We got a little bit frustrated along the way.
And I think, again, we're still looking for champions that get involved in that program as well.
Yeah, if I can share, we Cameron, the department, and I haven't heard anybody from Prescott, and we really just need at least one to get started. And then we will, as that small group, be making suggestions or looking for others from our councils to be involved. If we think that we want numerous council members on it, it really comes down to the composition of what works best. And I'm not sure what it is. I would like a representative from each municipality to sit down with our health unit resource person so that we can all have a say in the direction of what is being recommended.
Okay, any questions of Mayor Malenka before I proceed to the next item on the agenda? Okay, I see no hands. So now I'm at item number 9 on the agenda, which I just have the heading roundtable. I assume that means roundtable discussion. And so I think that at this point, the floor is open for new ideas, new items of business. And let's see where that goes. The chair's looking for direction. Well, I don't, everyone's saying, right? So I don't see any hands coming up. I don't see any. Okay, Mayor Todd.
This isn't so much of a roundtable, but I'll throw it in now just to see if I can get feedback. Because we do have the one direction on the physician recruitment, I would suggest that we do another meeting. I'm not gonna say August because that's crazy and people throw stuff at me. But I do think we bring it back to our councils. When's our next August 22nd? 18th,
Nope.
no, that's D-Day, isn't it? 19th. So we will be in, by the time we get this back, we will be into the election period and so forth. Physician recruitment's huge. And I think we do have to kind of keep the ball rolling on that. So I'll suggest that we look at a meeting, I'm gonna say probably relatively early in September, after we have the chance for each of the three of us to take that physician recruitment piece in particular back to our councils. I think it's our turn to host next. So I would offer that Prescott host that next meeting and we'll talk to the CAOs. I do want to see if the CAOs can have a dialogue again with Dr. Matthew, because I think that makes a lot of sense based on, I think Dave and Matthew already did speak with her. Matthew's here. Confused. Dr. Matthew and Matthew Armstrong. So anyways, that would be the one suggestion I would say for direction going forward. So it gives us a break of 5-6 weeks thereabouts, but it does get us back. So we've got a few things happening in September. So people can come to that meeting when they're not out putting up signs.
Yeah.
Some people.
Now, just with regard to that, just so that there's no misunderstanding, one of the requests that I had from MPP Clark's office was that we provide them with a short briefing as to how the meeting went with regard to recruitment of physicians. So as chair of this meeting, I'll be sending a short little report on Dr. Matthews' presentation. And the I'll include the motion that was carried here at the table. I'll include that in the report I sent to MPP Clark. So now Councillor Dillabaugh.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, thank you. Could we all get a copy of that, Mr. Mayor,
Copy of,
of the letter that you sent to Commissioner Clark?
by all means,
Yeah, thank you.
so anything further to bring up under roundtable? Okay, hearing nothing. I'm about to move on and I'm turning the page and the next item shows adjourn. Chair is looking for direction.
I'll adjourn.
I have a motion moved by Dillabaugh, second, to adjourn the meeting at, I'm showing the time as 8:40. Motion to adjourn does not require a seconder, nor does it require discussion. I have Councillor Cameron seconding. So those in favor? The motion is carried.